Hello, my name is Bonnie, and this is my knitting podcast, A Knitter Obsessed. I am the obsessed knitter in question, and I am so happy that you're here. Today, I have probably a bit of a shorter podcast episode for you. I've been knitting a lot, but I don't necessarily have a lot new to show you guys. Just a lot of work on my whips that I had in the last episode. But that doesn't mean they're not exciting. I'm really excited with how the projects are turning out, and I'm really excited to talk about it all with you guys. And I do actually have one finished object, which you might have noticed because I'm wearing it. So lots of fun stuff. And yeah, I'm glad you're here. So let's get into it. So let's just go straight into finished objects, because I feel like with knitting podcasts, you have to go into finished objects because often you're wearing them. So it's, a little hard to keep it a surprise. But I'm very excited. So this is my finished object this week. This is the Knus Light by Elsebeth Judith. I knit this in Miss Babs Avon in the colorway Calypso, which I basically bought just because it was so beautifully neon and bright, and I was just so excited about the color. And then the yarn came, and the yarn itself was just absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, could not be happier. I highly recommend Miss Babs yarns if you're looking for some really high quality hand-dyed yarns, because these are just a ton of fun to work with. And yeah, I loved working with this yarn. It is a fingering weight yarn. It was a merino and silk blend. I don't, off the top of my head, remember what the breakdown was, but I will put it in the description in case you're interested. I do think it would have been cool to make like my first summer t-shirt. That's kind of what this is ending up being. In maybe a less woolly fiber, just because it's already starting to get a little too hot to wear it around here. I live in Northern California, and we have fairly intense summers. Luckily, they're very dry summers. They're not very humid, but they are still very, very hot. So a merino t-shirt may or may not get a lot of wear. But that's just the practicality side of it. Like the feel of it and the fit of it and the way it drapes and everything, I could not be happier with. So like, I'm not complaining about the yarn at all. I'm just saying it might have been an interesting choice. We'll just have to kind of see as the weeks go on and it gets hotter and hotter here. But for now, the weather's okay. I've been wearing it. I've been loving it. I'll put up some footage of me walking around in it so you can see how it moves on my body. And yeah, I could not be happier. Here, I'll get a little closer so you can see some of the details up close. But it's this all over textured tee. And it has these different bands of different textures and a little bit of lace in there, which made it a ton of fun to knit, because you get through one section, you just be like, okay, I gotta keep going, I gotta get to the next section. And it knit up really fast because of that, which was really awesome. I knit the size 3 on US 4 needles, which is what was called for in the pattern. I hit the stitch gauge pretty dead on with that. However, my row gauge was very dense. I was about 6 rows more per 4 inches than what the pattern called for. And so I ended up following all of the directions for row counts for the size 5. So I just upped the size that I was following. I go through the math that I figured out, that I used to figure that out in my last podcast episode. So if you're interested, you can go check that out. It worked out pretty well. So like my yoke depth is dead on, and all of that, just following the few extra rows for the size 5. So I'm very happy I went ahead and did that. And then the final stockinette section, I did knit about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch longer than the pattern called for, because the shirt seemed to be coming out very cropped. So I was just trying to save it a little bit. That being said, it is maybe a touch more cropped than I would have chosen. I kind of wish it was just like 1 inch longer, but I don't want that. I thought about like ripping back a little bit and adding some more depth to the final stockinette section, or like the final ribbing, but it's not really where I want the extra rows. Like, I feel like that'll make it feel unbalanced. Like, I really wish I could go back through and in this middle stockinette section add like 3/4 of an inch, and then add a little bit of length to the last stockinette section just so that they matched. But it's not something that bothers me enough to like cut into the sweater and like figure out how to do any of that or anything. So I think we're just gonna live with it being a crop shirt. I think it's quite cute. It's cute with shorts, cute with high-waisted jeans. Like it's not a problem. I like wearing the shirt. I just think if I were to make it again, I would probably increase the depth of that section just a teensy bit, just to get myself a little bit of length overall. But that's just me. I think too, it has a little bit to do with the, you know, I have some boobs and I do feel like they kind of affect the fit a little bit, and they're just, it's shortening it in the front a little bit more than I think I would have liked. So the back hits almost in the exact perfect spot, but in the front it's just a little short. So now I know next time if I ever make this pattern again, which I would be happy to make this pattern again. I had a great time. I know she has a summer version that's like, I think it's for a slightly heavier weight, so the counts are a little different, but it's for like a cotton or linen yarn, I believe. I could absolutely see knitting that, just, you know, to mix it up a little bit and have it be a little different, but this is so much fun to knit. I would knit it again. So, but when I do, I would probably account for, you know, just adding a little bit of extra length throughout the project. There were a few options in this pattern that you could choose from as you were making it. Also, if I'm looking down, I just have some notes written here because I don't want to forget anything. I always tend to have a bunch of stuff I want to talk about in these podcasts, and inevitably I forget one or two things by the time I'm done filming, and so this time I wrote it all down so I could just double check that I'm saying everything I want to say. So if you see me looking down, that's why. But in between each section, there are these little purl bumps that just delineate each different texture pattern, which is really cute. And she had an option in there for using short rows to make the purl bumps. That way you didn't have to purl, which had the added benefit of sort of overlapping the ends of the purl bumps in a way where you didn't get a jog in the pattern as it went around, or at least not a super visible jog. Like there's a little something there, but it's not really obvious. So I did do that for every single one of the purl bumps, and I'm really happy I did. It's a really nice, clean finish. Also, you probably just heard my dog sighing. She just likes to sleep behind the chair when I film, so. But yeah, so I did the short rows for the purl bumps, and then I'm really happy I did that. This pattern also has short row shaping for the neck to bring the back up just a little bit, and then a few short rows throughout the yoke to continue lengthening the back of it just a little bit, and it created a very nice fit. It was I really am impressed with the design of this shirt. Like, there was a lot of attention to detail in the way it was going to fit and the way it was going to lay on the body, and I really like how, you know, the neckline and how open it came out, and yeah, very well designed. But if you don't like short rows, I will just warn you, there are quite a few short rows in this. But like I said, you don't have to do the short rows for the purl bumps. Those are totally optional. So, and then the only other changes I made were on the sleeves. I did stop the ribbing about 1 inch early, so it's supposed to be a full 2 inches of ribbing on the sleeves, and I stopped at 1. I just felt like it was looking good. I liked the look of it where it was at, and so I figured it, you know, just call it there. And then you had the option of doing a second purl bump around the collar, so you could like pick up stitches when you're all done with the shirt and then just add another couple of rows and a purl bump, so it was like this double rolled collar. And I just liked how clean it looked with the single edge, so I did not do that. But yeah, I think those are all of the big choices I made. Again, I highly recommend it. The only thing about this that I'm a little so-so on is my ribbing on the sleeve hems and the body hem just isn't like the neatest. It's a little open, it's fine. Like, it's fine. But it's just not the neatest. And what's interesting is I feel like the ribbing in the body of the shirt came out really nice. So I'm not sure, which is also 1x1 ribbing. So I'm not really sure what the difference was between in the body of the shirt and on the hems. I mean, on the hems it is on a smaller needle size. It went down to a 2.5, whereas in the body it was all knit on a on a US 4. But it's interesting to me that the smaller needle size is making less tidy looking ribbing. I don't know, it's a little surprising. But like not a deal breaker. Like I'm pretty sure it's something like only I would notice. I think it really does look okay. It's just not, you know, perfect, but it's fine. But yeah, so this is the Knus Light by Elsebeth Judith. Very happy with it. Oh, so how long it took me to knit. Let's see. So I started it on April 28th and I finished it on May 19th. So 3 weeks or so, which I don't feel like is too bad. I knit pretty much the whole yoke while on my vacation in Japan, and then set it aside for about a week just because I got excited about other things. And then when I picked it back up to start doing the body, I really just couldn't put it down. So once I picked it up to finish it, I wanted to finish it, and it kind of just flew off my needles from there. So yeah, this is a fun knit. I do highly recommend this pattern. It was a lot of fun. There's also an option if you're not into all of the texture, if it's a little too busy for you or that's not your thing, she has it written out for doing the body in just plain stockinette, which is also very pretty. So you have options. All right, so that is it for finished objects. I did not get anything else done. So I will get into my whips. So let's see, where do I want to start? I think I'm gonna start with the whip right now that is actually just, I don't know, it's the one I'm weirdly the most excited to work on. And I say weirdly just because I wouldn't have expected this. This one was, I was feeling burnt out on this project for a long time. Not a long time. I was feeling burnt out on it a couple of weeks ago. And I think I had mentioned that I probably wasn't going to work on it too much anymore. And then all of a sudden it just hit again and I was very excited about it. So I didn't end up putting it aside like I thought I would. I was a little caught off guard by it. But that project is my Hue Shift Afghan. So this is the Hue Shift Afghan by Kerin, Dimeler-Laurence. Hope I'm saying her name right. Sorry if I'm not. This is a metered square rainbow blanket. You can get the pattern off of Knit Picks. I bought the pattern and the yarn together all as a bundle, so that was a lot of fun. I got a big box of rainbow yarn, which is always a good time. And yeah, so it's knit in 4 sections, and I have the first section done. So this is the first 25 of 100 squares. And then when you're done, you seam all of the sections together, and then you pick up stitches and you make a black border to go around it, which is going to be a beast. There's going to be so many stitches in that border. But I have not just the first section done though. I also have the first 5 of the second section. So yeah, I really have been working on this one quite a bit. It's been a lot of fun. I've been really excited about getting some new colors in. So the first section only uses the first 5 colors. The second section uses all 10 colors. And so I was very excited because it's the first time I was going to get to see the blues and the greens that are going to be used in the blanket. And blues and greens are my happy colors. They are my favorites, and I was just very much looking forward to getting to look at them, which is, it's so funny how that is with knitting. Like, you're not just excited about the finished object, like, it also makes a difference how much you enjoy looking at the yarns that you're working with. At least in my experience. Like, when I'm excited about a color, I will pick up that project. Whereas if a color is just not really working for me, like if I'm making it for someone else and it's not my favorite, or I'm making it because, like, I really want the item in that color, but it's not like the most exciting for my brain. Like, I don't want to pick up those projects, no matter how exciting the project is. I don't know. I personally find that just very strange. It's just very interesting, I guess I should say. So, but yeah, getting in the blues and greens, I got all excited. So I got the first 5. I really wanted to keep working on it today, but I do have a rule for myself with this project that I'm not allowed to start a new column until I've woven in, you can see there's a bunch of them, all the ends for the last column. And not only does this column have ends, but I absolutely cheated on that rule and didn't weave in the ends for the last column on this section. So right now I'm kind of drowning in ends. So I love the knitting on this project, but I calculated it out, and so each square you're going to have 4 yarn ends to work with, because the beginning and end of each color. This is an average because there are ones that don't have the stripes that will only have 2 ends, but I don't feel like that'll make my math more complicated. So let's say you have 4 ends for every single square, and then there's 5 squares per column. So every column you have 20 ends to weave in. Every section you have 100 ends to weave in, give or take. Like, it's just, that is the worst part of this project. It's a bit tedious. So that's why I make myself do them for every column. But right now I'm a little behind and it's driving me crazy because I just want to add 1 more square tonight and I'm gonna be stuck weaving in ends instead, which makes me sad. This is knit. I've mentioned it a bunch of times on the channel already because this has been a long work in progress, but this is all knit with a US 7 needle. It is all knit with Knit Picks Mighty Stitch, which is an acrylic and wool blend. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the breakdown is, but it is mostly acrylic. And I've mentioned it before, the yarn's fine. I don't have any issues with it, but it is a little splitty, which does slow me down a little bit. It's a little slippery and a little splitty, and so it's not my fastest knitting when I'm working with it, but it's perfectly good, and I love the colors. They're so much fun. So yeah, been a lot of fun. The plan for this is to go to my oldest niece and hopefully to have it done by Christmas, which is seeming possible if I can keep up the pace. I know Christmas is a long way away from me saying, like, being skeptical that I might not get it done seems a little silly right now. We're only in May. But the first section, I started back in November of last year and I knit the first 6 squares and I set it aside for several months. So starting with square 7, when I picked it back up on March 29th, and I didn't finish the first section until May 20th. So almost 2 full months for not even a whole section is not the most efficient of knitting. Like, obviously I've had a lot of other stuff I'm working on in the meantime. This is sort of a back burner project and I'm sure I will get it done by Christmas. But like, when I saw those dates, I was like, ooh, we might need to be a bit more proactive with this project if we don't want to be panicking, you know, later this fall when the dates are starting to come up. So yeah, I'm mostly just being realistic with myself and realizing I need to do this a little bit at a time, but like more consistently, and that will make sure we get it done. So but yeah, I've been having so much fun with this. I'm really excited to keep working on it. I'm excited to see the next, I have 4 more colors that need to be revealed to me, and so I'm very excited. And when I got all this yarn, I tossed it all in a basket, and so like I've seen it all, obviously, but I'm kind of making a point not to like to kind of let it be a little bit of a surprise, like, ooh, this is the next color. I don't know, it makes it fun. It's a little silly, but yeah, Hue Shift Afghan. It's a Knit Picks pattern. I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun, even if it's a lot of metered squares. But it's a good brainless knitting. Like, I take this to work and I'll work on a square throughout the day. I'll weave in the ends at work. We just had our spring showcase for my dance studio this weekend, and this was the project I took because it was very easy to pick up and put down and, you know, not lose my place or have to think about it too much. So it's a great project. It's a lot of fun. But moving on, because I don't have a lot of extra to add to it other than that I've been working on it. So the next one would be my Arthur, the cardigan by Tricot Design MCL. And this one I haven't gotten a ton done. All that I've done is finish the first sleeve. So last time you guys saw it, I think I didn't put a marker for how far I was. I think I was almost done with the sleeve. Like I think I was maybe here last time I had a podcast. And that same night I ended up just finishing the sleeve and getting it done. Bound off with a nice tubular bind off. It was so nice and tidy. And yeah, and then I just kind of set it aside and I haven't picked it up again since. I'm still really excited for this. I just, actually, I set it down. I immediately went and finished my Knus Light. Like, once I finished the sleeve, I moved on to this, and this was really what I spent, you know, quite a bit of time working on over the last 2 weeks. So it's not like I wasn't busy knitting, but I did set the cardigan aside. And I do think part of the issue is that it is a wool and mohair cardigan. And so it's getting hot here. And having this on, you know, it has to sit in my lap essentially while I'm knitting, and it just is very, very hot. And so it hasn't been what I've been reaching for. I really want to have it done. Like, I'm so excited for the finished project. But it is just a little hard for me to get my brain excited to work on it. But yeah, it's coming along really well. I'm really happy with it. I knit the sleeve a little longer than called for in the pattern. Here, I'll try it all on for you. I'm gonna be so warm by the end of this video, but it's fine. And so I want this to be a really nice and cozy cardigan that's just really comfy. And so I did knit the sleeve a little extra long. I had to pick up, I accidentally knit 2 rows too many for both the front and the back panels. And so when I went to pick up for the sleeves, I had to pick up 2 extra stitches to accommodate that. And so I then had to do 1 extra decrease on the sleeves to get the stitch counts back. But I really love the fit of all of this. I think it's really comfortable and really cozy, and just when I have the second sleeve, it'll be very snuggly. But also, I'm taking this off, it's so hot. I did order the buttons for this. So, hold on just a second so I can go grab them. So I ordered these off of an Etsy shop. I will put the name up here. But they are these really pretty, sort of like antique-y. Not that they look antique, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to cover up my face. Here we go. These silver buttons, but they're not like super overly shiny silver. They've got, they're the same on both sides, so I was trying to see which one's better. But yeah, they're just nice and sort of simple. And I felt like if I just kind of hold it up against the cardigan, figure out the best way to show this. I felt like they complemented it very nicely. Like, I feel like the shiny metal kind of, it almost like grounds the cardigan a little bit because it's so busy that giving it like a little bit of a focal point with the metal button, I feel like it's a really good move. I was really, really happy with the way they looked. So, and I had bought 2 options, and so one was these and one was sort of like flat silver buttons that didn't have like the buttonholes, like, you know, you had the hole in the back that you sewed through, so they were a little bit more plain. But they were just too much. Like these ones with the slightly like tarnishy look, it sort of brings down the intensity of them a little bit, whereas like the flat silver ones were just, they were too much of a focal point. Like it didn't work. So I'm very happy with these. These are the way to go for sure. So Arthur's another one I've talked about a lot. So if you are new here, I'll go through some of the stats again. But this is knit with Miss Babs Yowza in the colorway Eternity, which is a superwash merino, DK weight. And it's held with Miss Babs Moonglow, which is their silk mohair, in the colorway Ziggy Stardust, which I am in love with the colors. It's so much fun. Someone in the comments on my last video said it made them think of Monet's water lilies, and like, oh my gosh, like the best compliment ever. It made my day. And also, like, I see it now that it's pointed out. It does very much have that same color palette, and like, I'm so in love. I think that is, thank you. That was the nicest comment. But yeah, I had those two held together, and it's knit with on a US 7 needle, which is not what the pattern calls for. The pattern calls for US 8, but I actually got gauged while swatching for a different garment. And so I don't have any idea what my gauge would have been with the US 8, but I was hitting gauge perfectly with the US 7 when I checked it after gauging for the other project. So, you know, just figured I'd keep going with it. And that worked out too, because my US 8 is on my other sweater that I'm working on right now, and so I wouldn't have been able to start it if I had gone with the pattern needle. Now, typically, so for the ribbing, I did a US 5, which is, in the pattern, they have you go down a full millimeter for the ribbing, and usually when I change my needle size, I would still go down a full millimeter to compared to what needle I chose to use. I would then go down a full millimeter from there to stick with the pattern. And that would have put me using a US 4, but my US 4s were still on my Knus Light, and I didn't want to take them off, and so I just went with a US 5 and figured it'd be good enough. And I do think the ribbing, it looks very nice, so it worked out well. One thing I did on this that was interesting is I actually knit my ribbing inside out. So I had talked about having some issues with, my ribbing not looking super neat on my Knus Light, and I've had that same issue on some other projects as well. And I was watching YouTube knitting podcast, because of course, and I'm sure you've heard of her, but Birch and Lily, she was talking once about how she does her ribbing inside out because she finds that her ribbing's just a lot neater that way. And so I was intrigued and figured I'd give it a go. And so what you do is you just do a short row, a German short row right before you start your ribbing, and then you just stay turned and you just knit your ribbing inside out. And I do think it is so hard to tell in this colorway, but the knitting seems just very, very neat to me. Like, I think it worked great. It was a little bit awkward to do because I was doing magic loop at that point, and having the magic loop be, on the other side of me while juggling the mohairs and all of that was a bit much, but it came out beautiful. I plan to do it for all the rest of the ribbing on that one as well. So yeah, pretty happy. But yeah, that's my Arthur cardigan. I've been calling it the Pardigan, which makes me chuckle. So I'm very excited. I'll get back to that one soon. Yeah, the mohair on my lap is a problem, but as long as I work on it in the evenings, it really shouldn't be an issue. And I am excited to get it finished because, yeah, it might not be something I'm really able to wear for a few months, but I kind of just want to be able to look at it and, stare at it and admire it. So I'm happy to get it finished just for that, stage. And then it'll be there and ready for me in the fall when the weather starts changing. So I'm very excited for that one. All right, and that brings us to our final whip. So this is another long time whip on this channel. I feel like I've been talking about this one forever, but it's getting more work done on it again. So hopefully we'll start making more progress on this. This is another one that is very off-season knitting. I will not get to wear it for a long time, but this is my Wishbone Sweater by Veronica Lindberg. She also goes by Kuda Vakika, and she's also on YouTube, so feel free to check her out as well. But since last time, I finished the first sleeve. So I bound this off yesterday, actually, while at my dance show. So it's trying to figure out the best way to show it to you. So here we go. So here's the sleeve up close, just since this is what's new. It's got a full 3 inches of twisted rib at the end. This whole thing is knit on US 8 needles, except for the ribbing at the, collar and hems, which is on a US 2.5. So it goes down quite a bit. And I really do like the effect it gives. The ribbing at the edges is so neat and tidy and just looks fantastic. I'm knitting this pretty much exactly according to pattern. The only change I made was adding 1 extra pattern repeat on the sleeve just to make them a little bit longer. And I'm really happy I did it. I think they're going to hit just perfectly. And now I am currently working on the second sleeve. So yeah, obviously I have quite a ways to go, but that's where we're at. Again, I've mentioned this a lot, but in case you're new here, this is knit with Sadnes Garn Double Sunday in the color Deep Red, held with a strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the color Claret. I am obsessed with this color, and this pattern is honestly just a joy to knit. I've been having so much fun with it. I took a little bit of a break just because I was traveling and it's not a very travel-friendly project. But I'm back on it now and I'm excited to keep working on it. This obviously does have the exact same problem though as my cardigan. Just the wool and the mohair, and just being on my lap while I'm knitting, it's very, very hot for me to work on right now. And so I don't find myself like wanting to reach for it. Once I'm knitting on it, I love it and I'm having a great time, but like making myself start knitting either this or the Arthur cardigan right now is just kind of difficult. So we're working on it, we're making slow progress, and you know, that's all I can ask for. But I'm so excited for it. The thing I am excited for on this one, honestly, is when I can get it done and I can block it, because I'm so intrigued to see how this is going to change once it's blocked and all the cables open up and all of that. I think it's going to just be a completely different sweater and I'm so excited for it. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to add on it, add about it. It's still just a long-term work in progress. I do think it can be a little hard to see what's going on with the fit on this, just because it is a little bit of an interesting shape. And so let me see if I can try it on for you guys and just show you where it's at right now. Sorry, there's a lot of yarn on it, so just take a second. Okay. So obviously it is still, very, very cropped right now. Try not to lose any stitches. And I'm pretty sure once I get more weight on it, it'll pull the collar down more. So right now it's riding very, very high. But yeah, so here's the sleeve length with the little bit of extra length on it. So it's hitting more down by my thumb. We'll see if that was a good call. I mostly went with that based off of the project pictures. I felt like hers were just hitting a little short from what I would have liked. And I felt like they were going to be at that kind of weird length where I'm just a little annoyed by them all the time, but they work, so I'm not complaining. I don't know, I figured I'd just get ahead of it and add a little bit extra length to it. So, and I wanted to be a little careful because I know this will come down, but worst come to worst, if I need to pick this back and make the sleeve a little shorter, it's not a huge thing to have to do. But yeah, this is her, and I think, picture it with my hair up and just, it's going to be a very, I think, striking sweater. I'm very excited for it. So, oh boy, is it warm though. It is toasty. It will be good for winter. So that is the Wishbone sweater. I knit the small medium size. It's the second size. So yeah, love the pattern. Could not recommend enough. It's been a delight to work on. So yeah. And yeah, that is actually it for me. I don't have any more works in progresses. Hopefully coming into the summer, I am looking forward to getting a lot more knitting done. What's interesting is I was kind of thinking this summer I would start doing more like summer knits and stuff, but I don't have very much summer yarn, and I have more yarn in my stash right now that I'm probably comfortable with, and so I don't want to buy more yarn. So this might just be the summer where I knit a lot of woolly sweaters, because that's what I have the yarn for. And I'm not super upset about that. I have one shirt quantity of Knitting for Olive pure silk, so I will probably use that on something very soon. But other than that, I might start working on maybe some accessories and smaller things. I've got, my blanket to work on. I've got another blanket project coming up that I'll probably talk about in my next knitting podcast. I'm waiting for the yarn to come in before I talk about it. Also, I just realized that the lighting's getting kind of weird and I apologize for that, but we're wrapping up here, so I'll just let it be for now. But yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be a summer of summer knits, and that is okay. I am fine with that. I now have this shirt and I have my ranunculus, which I absolutely love, and so those just might be my summer shirts for the summer, and that is totally okay, because what I have in stash is a lot of very woolly wool, so you know, we're gonna work with what we got. But this summer I'm actually going to be teaching a lot more dance. If you're new here, I do teach dance, which is why I mentioned having a dance recital yesterday, and so we're getting back into summer classes after, you know, the show yesterday, which went fabulously, by the way. I had 2 pieces in it and they were both fantastic. I was so proud of my dancers. But I'm looking forward to getting into the summer and being able to really teach some fun classes and really challenge my dancers and have some fun. And I'm getting to teach a bit more because some of the other teachers go on summer vacation, and so I am really looking forward to that this summer. And I think I'm really going to put a lot of my creative energy there, as well as knitting and the podcast. And I think it's just going to be a really fun summer, and I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you're looking forward to your summer. If you want to tell me what your summer plans are, both knitting and otherwise, I'd be super curious to know. I think it's such a fun season, and I'm excited to see what everyone's plans are. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you back next time. All right, bye.